Okay, so next on the agenda is Lisa Arkin from Beyond Toxics to talk about Seneca Sustainable Energy's actual permit application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jerry, it's always nice to see you, buddy.
Lisa, just so you know, everybody here can't see you because we had a technical snafu about our projector, but we can hear you.
Okay, well, can you hear me if I project my voice? Am I loud enough?
We have plenty of audio enhancement, so we can hear you. We just can't see you. Mhm.
Okay, but the people on Zoom can see me, I suppose, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm glad you got to hear a little bit from Travis Knudsen from El Rapa. And I'll just, first of all, thank you for inviting me to your meeting. We've been working really closely with active Bethel citizens, and I'm so glad that I also get to visit with your neighborhood organization and look forward to any future collaborations. Travis mentioned, so we're talking about Seneca, and I'll try to answer questions as best I can as you have them. But I have to say that this is a very complicated situation that El Rapa's say kind of not as of yet being as upfront as we would like them to be about the complexity of this.
Can you first tell us, Lisa, can you first tell us who Beyond Toxics is and what you do in the community so that people have an idea? They're hearing from.
Thank you. I'm like, get right into it. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. So Lisa, I'm Executive Director of Beyond Toxics. We are an Oregon-based environmental justice nonprofit. Our offices are here in Eugene, and we also have a tiny office down in Southern Oregon in Jackson County. We work on projects that really hopefully create benefits for your lives, your communities, your families here in Oregon. We tackle air pollution problems, water pollution problems. We have our climate justice work. So we are currently in contract with Lane County to make sure that the county is adopting an effective and meaningful climate action plan. We work with tribes. We work with other nonprofits throughout the state to influence legislation. So we're kind of unique in that way, is that we're very much a grassroots organization. Like, you call me, I'm there for you. And we also go to the state legislature and have proposed and succeeded in passing legislation. We have a lot of local events I'll be happy to tell you about, some coming up right away. And we've been around for over 20 years doing this work. So I hope you've heard of us at some point. Anyone have a question about who Beyond Toxics is? Okay. All righty. So we, way back when the Aaron Jones Seneca company proposed a biomass plant, it was like 2011, we were there right up in front opposing it for the amount of air pollutants it would put into our community, and worried about, it's the ability of a very polluting facility to earn energy tax credits as well. But the facility was built, and I believe we had an impact on making their air permit more protective at the time. The company was then sold to kind of a national conglomerate called Sierra Pines. So it's no longer owned by the Seneca company. Neither is the Seneca sawmill. That was also purchased by Sierra Pines. So I think it's important that the community know we're not dealing with a local company anymore. We're dealing with a company that has facilities all throughout North America and is looking to maximize their corporate earnings. And I think that's why this has come up, that the facilities want to increase production. They're also very aware that our state has identified Oregon's forest as some of the richest carbon sequestering sinks in the world. We have like the best forests here in Western Oregon, and Lane County and Douglas County have some of the largest timber production. And so I'm sure this company didn't buy out Seneca for a whim. They bought it out because there are forests here to be cut. And they're going to try to increase that timber production as fast as possible before any rules are put in place about preserving forests for carbon sequestration and energy credits. So that there's kind of like a scenario. Why is this happening now? So I think that Sierra Pines really wanted to step up production at the sawmill. But because the sawmill is next to the biomass plant and they're both owned by Sierra Pines and they both put out a lot of pollution, their permit for hazardous air pollutant is joined, kind of like Siamese twins, but LRAP is treating it like they're divorced. So this informational hearing that Travis talked about July 11th, which I hope we all go to, they're only going to talk about the Seneca biomass, or otherwise known as Seneca cogen permit. They're not going to talk to you about the fact that it's totally tied in with the sawmill and that the two of them are looking to increase hazardous air pollutants from a current level of 39 tons per year to up to as much as 61 tons per year. And see if I have yeah, I can share my screen, but I got to get the right document. I just want to show you some of the pollutants. Hold on 1 second. That will be in our air shed. Okay. There it comes. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. So I'm still kind of at an overview of, like what's going on here. So I'm hoping you can see that.
We can see it.
Okay. So this is, just a list, not just a list, it's a long list of all the hazardous air pollutants, which are here in where it says FHAP. Sorry, so many things going on here. FHAP is Federal Hazardous Air Pollutant that must be regulated by an air regulatory agency. So I kind of highlighted chromium 6. That's very, very bad. It can cause a number of health impairments, but you've got all these heavy metals, arsenic, and so on and so forth, manganese, going down to inorganic gases, a lot of ammonia, over 10.5 tons of ammonia per year, hydrogen chloride, over almost 1.5 tons per year, hydrogen fluoride, again, very caustic things. So I'm just breezing down this list and just so you get a sense of what it means to go from 39 tons a year of hazardous air pollutants to 61 tons a year. So it's a long list. There also includes dioxin and furans. So there you go. But we're not really going to get to talk about that for the Seneca permit because they're going to wait to talk about it when they talk about the sawmill permit, which is coming up later this month. And then they'll talk about how the two permits are co-joined. There's another reason why Sierra Pines is rushing to get this permit. And that is because the Department of Environmental Quality, the DEQ, is about to do rulemaking to tighten up some of the air quality rules that would affect this permit. And if the permit can be approved before those rules are tightened, then the facility kind of gets grandfathered in to the old rules. So, as much as we could possibly delay this would be a good idea. Let me just stop there for a second. I'm going to go into a little more detail, but let me stop and ask if there are any questions so far.
I have one. Is the increase from 39 tons to 61 tons, is that out of a combination? Is the increase out of both of them combined, or is it all out of the biomass, or is it all out of the sawmill?
Good question. A good question. The primary contributor to the 61 tons will be the sawmill, but it is combined.
So that begs the
Of
question.
the incremental 22 tons, how many tons come out of the sawmill?
I cannot tell you that because El Rapa has not posted the proposed permit yet. That's
Okay.
why I'm going to share as much as I know so far, but they haven't posted everything. So yes, I'll tell you as much as I know, but I don't know the answer to that.
John Stone?
Yeah, Lisa, you said that then that begs the question, is it possible that the boiler plant, the energy creation plant part can be approved and the sawmill part cannot be approved, or are they tied at the hip? And if both of them need to be approved or for them to do anything?
They will both be approved. The devil is in the details. So I think Travis said that El Rapa doesn't really have the authority to deny a permit as long as the permittee complies with the rules. And so what I've been doing all day is reading both El Rapa's rules and the EPA rules. And guess who wrote the rules? Industry wrote the rules. There's so
Yeah, that's we all know that.
yeah, there's so many loopholes.
So in other words, the sawmill part of it has also reached the same point that the energy producing part has. It's already been approved, and now they're just going into the limit. How do you resolve the risks stage?
It has not been approved, but it's as long as they show compliance with federal and state law, it must be approved.
Understood.
Yeah, and so what the public can do is try to introduce a demand for certain things like more protection, or to limit the greatest amount that can be polluted.
Well, that would be working with our politicians, though, correct? I mean, that's not something we can demand without our politicians increasing the regulations through either a vote or putting it to vote, popular vote.
I would disagree. I mean, technically, yes, but I would say that public opinion can make a difference. And if we all agree on what I say demand, that doesn't mean we'll get them, but we can ask for certain things, certain ways to be more protective with this permit or to delay the permit. We may not get it, but we should all be a united chorus, so to speak, on this.
My concern is with the latest Supreme Court ruling, we may not want to delay. It may get worse, not better.
Well, our legislature has been pretty good so far, but yeah, I hear what you mean. I hear it.
Lisa, is there an effective strategy that you can see for delaying or creating a better outcome that you could help direct us to so that we can work together to make that happen?
Yes, so we've already had one impact, and I just put in the chat, and I'll say it out loud. El Rapa has their community meeting or their informational meeting on July 11th. We're having our own on July 19th. Well, we're going to tell you the way it is. We're going to tell you about all the research we've done on these permits and what our talking points should be. So the impact we've already had is El Rapa scheduled their informational hearing on July 11th, and then they were going to close public comment on July 13th, giving the public only 48 hours or less than 48 hours to come up with their public comments after learning what the permit is all about. We sent them a letter, so we demanded that they extend the public comment period to the end of the month to give people a chance to study and understand the complicated issues. We did get them to agree to that, so public comment closes July 29th. So our information session is on the 19th. That gives people 10 days to write up your comments based on what you learned at the El Rapa information meeting, what you learned at our community meeting. And we'll give you those talking points, Kate. So it's a long-winded answer to your question. We're preparing to do that on the 19th because we're still studying the permit. I can tell you a few things now from my cursory read through, but let me just say again that we're going to put out an announcement of our July 19th meeting, probably Monday. We have a big event on Saturday, so probably on Monday. And then you can register for it and join us, and it'll be a meeting just like this one. And we'll do a PowerPoint presentation on what we've learned, what we suggest you comment on, and how to make a difference. And then you can ask questions. Okay.
Great. If you could send us information that we could distribute via our webmaster on Twitter and Facebook and all the things. So I'm not the person, but there is a person who does that in our community. And if you give it to us in the format they can do that, they will do that.
Awesome. Yeah, Martha asked if we'll be putting it on our website. Yes, we will. I'm just sorry there's no time. There's no time between the time we learned about it and tonight to really grasp, all there is to learn about this. So some of the things I thought were not good that I'd like to point out for you is, first was that hazardous air pollutants, that the limit goes way up. And as I asked Travis about it, and what he told me was, it's totally a technological approach. It's not a health-based approach. Like, they can show that they're going to do whatever their best is to control hazardous air pollutants with pretty outdated equipment. That's kind of good enough. So there's no specific control that I can find in the permit that says you have to control chromium-6 in such and such a way. I haven't found it yet. So it's just, they can go up this high, the rules say they can go up that high, and that's what they're going to do. So that's a problem. And, we can ask for, what are we gaining? How can we have an impact on it? And so what are we gaining? We're not gaining anything. Sierra Pines is gaining. They're gaining the ability to increase their production. And we're getting more air pollution. And I haven't heard anyone talk about jobs, whether there'll be more jobs or not.
Question, Lisa?
Yeah.
Dawn?
You mentioned that there's talk of tighter regulations coming from the DEQ. Is there any kind of timeline on that?
It might be too late, but public comment is still open, and public comment closes, I think, July 18th or 19th, somewhere in there. So then it has to be, all the public comment has to be read and assimilated, and then the final rule will be proposed, and then it will be given to the Environmental Quality Commission to take a vote on. So probably not till the fall.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
Will the July 19th meeting be recorded? So
Yes.
To that later.
Yeah.
I might be at the local track meet, so.
Okay.
I posted my point or question in the
Sorry.
chat, but I'll just restate it here. I mean, it seems like Lisa, great gain all information to us of what you feel is the increased risk we're facing. To me, though, it's not just a risk question. To me, it's a benefit risk analysis. What are we gaining by this increased risk? And does the increase, is what we're gaining validate, is it the risk validates the risk that we're the extra risks we're going to be taking on? I know it's an out of state place and we're thinking that all the money is going to be going to them, but are we looking at increased jobs? Are we looking at increased revenue in the area? That type of stuff. And the community needs to decide, is the risk worth the benefits? We can't just look at this, hey, risk or risk. We all take risk every day. But you have to weigh the risk against the benefits.
Well, that's a
And we
subjective
also-
question.
Oh, and we also need to make sure that the risks aren't too great, no matter what the benefits. I mean, if they're truly harming people more than other pollutants do, you don't want to just sign on because there are certain benefits. So it's, yeah, I think you have to weigh both, you know, to sort of separately where the risk benefits, yeah, it's a good thing, but also how high are those risks? What are they actually hurting people? And if so, should you be doing it at all?
Certainly that's where you're talking about risk. We're talking about the level of risk, right? There's high, medium, and low level risks. We need that understood, and then you weigh that against the benefits you're getting to, and also where are those benefits going? And I mean, certainly we need to understand if the risks are short-term or long-term, right?
Mhm.
Those and that's just a lot of information. The one thing we also had to take into account is I looked at the LRAPA information that was presented earlier. I actually went up to their website and looked. We haven't reached the control areas of the permitting processes yet, where they will state here, okay, this is what the risks are. The next part that they have to go through is, and this is what we're going to do to control those risks. Until we know what those controls are in place, that will specify what will be the remaining risks after they put in additional controls. And this is actually the right time for what Lisa's talking about for us, you know, to bring up, hey, we want you to control it more, we want you to control it less, but we need a better understanding of you know, what are the risks, what the level of the risks are, and then you know, what controls are they planning to put in place to decrease the risk to our society?
Yeah, I think, you know, those are really, really good points. And sometimes it is very subjective because we know more now about the impact of air pollutants on health than we knew 10 years ago when these original permits were put, or a little more than 10 years ago when they were put in place. And so I will just screen share. This is from the Seneca proposed permit. And this is a graph. And so on the left side of the graph, they name what's called a criteria air pollutant. The EPA regulates these criteria air pollutants. PM stands for particulate matter. So that's like soot or ash in the air, it's dirty air, right? And particles in the air. It can come from many sources, but this is the particle matter that's emitted specifically by this facility and only this facility, based on their own testing of their stacks and their all their other control equipment. PM10 is particulate matter that is 10 microns, which is really tiny. PM 2.5 is 2.5 microns, which is smaller than the width of a hair. So very small. And it's very significant that if you look, well, if you look at this row, the previous PSEL stands for plant site emission limit. So that's the highest they can go. It used to be 16 tons per year. That's what it is right now, 16 tons per year. They're proposing to go up to 24 tons per year of particulate matter. And the reason that's significant, you go from 16 to an allowable 24 tons of particulate matter, is particulate matter is now known to contribute to morbidity, stroke, heart disease, cancer, and birth defects. So how do we weigh those risks? I totally say it's kind of depends on who you are. If you're elderly, you should care more than if you're 21, because elderly
But
are more
also,
susceptible.
I'm sorry for interrupting, Lisa, continue.
Thank you. And if I was a pregnant woman, I'd care even more that these additional pollutants are being put into the air shed when I don't feel my community might reap the benefits of the risk. Now, Seneca is in county land, so they're not paying taxes to the city of Eugene. Now they might pay, taxes on wages to the state, and if they increase jobs, there's a benefit. So, and jobs are a benefit. So I'm just saying there are many things to consider in a cost risk analysis.
The particulate matter part that you brought up, Lisa, is I agree is important. Although I would the scientific studies are that the smaller particulate matter are the things that actually create most of the problems. And I notice that they're planning to decrease those smaller particulate matters and so that to me the question is going to be, I mean, since science knows that it's the small stuff that gets in your lungs that is really the cause of the problem, and not necessarily the large parts that aren't really easily breathed in, or at least if they're breathed in, they're breathed out easier and don't get stuck. That again, 24 tons per year. You start breaking that down, yeah, it's somewhere around, what is it, about 100 more pounds a day. And the question that is that really a risk? And of course, again, that's not my decision. That's not your decision. That's the community's decision. So far, the community's decision has been created by these regulations, which, of course, you pointed out, were written by the industry themselves. So, and so that's where it seems to me that we need to be concentrating our efforts on trying to get control of the regulations. But obviously, this is a time for us to talk about them controls. How can they put more controls in place to get that 24 tons down?
True that. So regarding better control, I noticed in this permit for Seneca that things like truck traffic, so they have many trucks that are delivering woody matter from wherever they're getting it from. They take sawdust, they take bark chips, they take construction materials as long as it's not treated. They take manure, they take other animal products like bedding or chaff from harvesting. They burn a lot of things. It's not just wood, but those trucks are coming in and out all the time. So that increases diesel particulate, but that's not in the permit anywhere. I think we could request that they estimate the amount of pollution from truck traffic and include it in the permit. Currently in the permit, it's called an insignificant activity, but I would say considering all the delivery trucks, 24/7 they operate, that they should include any pollution generated by truck traffic as part of the permit and include it in the permit. So that could be one thing we ask for, just so we have a better understanding. That doesn't mean they don't get the permit, they'll get it, but we will have a better understanding of the risk. And I just want to say in terms of PM, what they're not measuring in their permit or not declaring is PM1, like 1 micron. So within the greater PM number, there can be even smaller PM particles and larger, can be both. Any more questions, or I can point out a few other things, and then I think we're almost at time.
Dawn has a question.
Okay,
I have a quick question about the equity piece. Do we have data on health impacts proximate to Seneca? Do we know, right, that there's people are disproportionately affected within a certain radius of Seneca, and is that a community that we have equity? Are we looking at one of these social justice pieces as well that we can comment on?
yes, thank you for that question. It's a really good question, and it gets back to risk analysis. Nothing's ever, totally,
Yeah.
everything is gray a little bit. So regarding that question, let me try to make 3 points. Remember all three. I'll talk about what Seneca has said about the risk, which is part of their official record, the modeling they've done, and this process called Cleaner Air Oregon that Travis talked about. So number one, as part of the Cleaner Air Oregon process, Seneca itself has to do a health risk analysis. The agency doesn't do it, because the agency couldn't afford to do it. It's the polluter who does it. And their health risk analysis pretty much determined that they fall underneath the health risk for cancer, and they fall underneath the the benchmarks for cancer and the benchmarks for non-cancer, which would include things like asthma or heart disease. So that formal risk analysis that was done by Seneca earlier this year is part of the record. And so according to Seneca, they're below a benchmark. So that's important to know, and we can accept that at face value or not accept it, whatever, but it is part of the official record. Secondly is modeling. When Seneca was built, originally El Rapa did air dispersion modeling for nitrogen oxide and carbon monoxide. Seneca puts out far greater amounts of nitrogen oxide and carbon monoxide than most industrial facilities. Most put out somewhere around 40 tons a year. They're putting out 185 tons of nitrogen oxide per year and 201 tons of carbon monoxide per year. Those are pollutants that affect our lungs, but they also affect climate, and they affect general air quality like haze and smog, things like that. They are allowed to put out that much. I'm not saying we have to stop it. It's in the permit. But the air dispersion modeling that El Rapa did showed that the impacts of that are within acceptable limits. They're going to say it doesn't get as far as River Road. According to their modeling, the impact does not get as far as River Road. We can accept that at face value or challenge it, but that's what the modeling shows. So that's two. And the third thing I want to point out is that Portland, the legislators in Portland were able to carve out a special program for them, for the Portland area, that calculates cumulative risk. So when Seneca applies for a permit, under that program that Portland has, they also have to look at all the other polluters that are putting out the same pollution, particulate matter, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, all the sulfur dioxide, all those things. We don't have that in Lane County. So they're not required to do a cumulative risk analysis. So we can't ask them to do it because they're just not required to do it. So those are gray areas where, getting back to the question, is there a community that's more impacted? I would say yes, is my opinion. I would say despite the fact that Seneca has determined that they're below a health risk benchmark, I would say that cumulatively, all the pollution coming from all the industries on Highway 99, most of it comes right into Bethel neighborhood, maybe a little more so than your neighborhood, because the air kind of goes on a diagonal there. Although in the summer it goes the other way, so it could impact your neighborhood. I would say there could be health impacts for those who are vulnerable. That would include the very youngest of children, pregnant women and elderly, and anyone with a pre-existing condition. Can we prove it? No, we cannot. But that would be our opinion about the vulnerable neighborhoods in West Eugene.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah.
So we look forward to getting some more information from you that we can distribute out to our neighbors, and we'll let people know about July 19, and any information you want to share back with us, I'll be sure to share out with membership for providing comments.
Thank you. I'm sorry it gets so wonky, but I'm just trying to tell it like it is. It gets kind of, you know, like too much information, but thank you for your excellent questions, and I tried to answer as best I could. One thing I want to just invite you to that's more joyous than I'll just share my screen super quick, if you don't mind. I invite everybody this Saturday to our Kalapuya mural dedication ceremony. It should be joyous, and it's at the Westmoreland Community Center where the Boys and Girls Club is. That's right behind the Bi-Mart on 18th and Chambers. Starts at 11 o'clock. And there'll be drumming and singing and Kalapuya storytelling. And so it's free, just come, 11 o'clock. And if you have Saturday free and you're not at the country fair, come join us.
Thanks so much.
And I would say we appreciate having a wonk about this kind of stuff that can alert us when bad things are happening. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me, and just thanks for being aware of Beyond Toxics and our work.
Yeah. Thanks for your good work.
Okay, bye.
Good night.
Bye.